Jito has been one of the top performers in the last week. The question is why? Who is buying here? Who is selling here? And is this just another pump and dump? Or does it potentially make sense to do a long-term contrarian bet? Have a look at this here. At the top, we've got the Jito price. At the bottom, we've got the volatility. As in, Jito has not moved that significantly in its price for a long time. And very often, with those high volatility phases, we tend to see at least temporary top forming. There are really no important news around JTO. Yes, Bitget launched a reward pool for the project, but really, I don't think that justifies a rally like this. But wherever there's manipulation, there's also potentially an opportunity. Hi, my name is Gerhard. I've been in the crypto space for the last 8 years. I hit my first million 3 years ago. In this video, I want to share the data that I look at in order to outperform the market. On average, I did this versus buying and holding Bitcoin by 2% every single month. So that's in the link down below. That's for the copy trading. So to be a bit more exact, it's 2.3% per month. This is my last 5-year track record at the bottom. So that's the portfolio measured in Bitcoin. And at the bottom, we see the monthly deltas. So not every month, of course, is an outperformer, but the long term is what matters. Now, this chart here shows why it makes sense to be skeptical around the current Jito rally. This is the total value locked, or the amount of capital that's on the Jito protocol. It peaked at close to $4 billion. Now it's at 700. What we see in light blue at the bottom, that's the amount of fees that are getting generated. That peaked at roughly 20 million. Now that's down to 100K per day. And so yes, some people in crypto Twitter are very bullish. They are saying that Jito is waking up and the momentum is accelerating. But really, this here is the Jito price in US dollars over time. We saw a massive destruction of capital, 95% of a decline, and now we are slowly coming back. Here is Jito relative to Bitcoin. There is an argument to be made that there is a breakout, but Jito relative to the rest of the altcoin market still has some way to go. Now, where does this long-term underperformance come from? As so often with many altcoins, it's token inflation. So the number of tokens that are circulating tends to go up over time because early investors and the team and the insiders, they all cash out. And so the number of Jito tokens went from 100 million all the way up to 700 million. When the supply 7x's, it's very hard to keep the price. The demand has to grow at the same rate. And this does matter, right? This is again the price chart in US dollars. Compare that with the market cap chart. The market cap has been way more stable over time, but the price clearly went down again because there's more and more tokens. It takes more and more capital to just keep the current price. By the way, if you use X as well, formerly known as Twitter, then feel free to also follow the channel here. I've got the following account. It's at Bitcoin Strat. Make sure that you follow the right account and not an imposter, not a scammer. This is the only account that I'm using, at Bitcoin Strat on Twitter, or now known as X. Now, in the last 24 hours, we saw 32 million worth of trading volume on the spot market. Compare that with the perpetual futures market. Here we had 350 million. So most trading clearly happens on the levered bets on the Jito price. Now, what's interesting, that since this rally has been established, the funding rate has been very negative. As in before, when actually the price tended to go down, the funding rate was more balanced and it tended to be positive. Since the rally started, the funding rate is negative. What does this mean? When the funding rate is negative, there's more people that bet on falling prices than on rising prices. When the funding rate is positive, then most people think that the price will go up. Now that means when the majority of retail investors are betting on falling prices, that the market makers, they tend to buy up the supply and then liquidate the people that are betting on falling prices. So this is a classical short squeeze situation. The trading volume hasn't yet gone up much, but every now and then we see those very quick appreciations in Jito. And then have a look at how many shorts get liquidated. This happens time and time again, and it's the actual reason why the Jito price is going up. It's not because of the project. The project is not doing good at all. And it's still an inflationary token. The inflation hasn't yet finished. Those kind of short squeezes tend to be done also on the perpetual futures, so with leverage. What we see over here, that's the open interest on Jito over time. And when this is high and the price tends to be elevated, there's a lot of leverage in the price. When this is low, then Jito tends to be comparatively cheap. So here is the Jito price in yellow. Whenever we see open interest go up, the price is high. Whenever open interest tends to go down, the price tends to follow as well. And currently we are rather high on open interest. In other words, when this declines again, the price will likely follow as well and come down with it. Now I've run 40,000 backtests to try to figure out how can we best time Jito. So we are looking at golden crosses and death crosses of slow and fast moving averages, all kinds of combinations. The very best combination is the one over here. It's the 26 plus 77 day simple moving average. Whenever the shorter moving average crosses a longer term, then we buy. Whenever the shorter term goes below the longer term, then we sell. And that trading strategy brought 230% annualized versus losing 38%. So this is then how that looks like over time. We've got our Jito price, we've got our two moving averages. When we get a golden cross, we want to buy. When we get a death cross, we want to bet on falling prices. Then we've got here in blue, our portfolio measured in US dollars. And at the bottom, we've got the portfolio measured in Jito tokens. So a very nice, constant outperforming strategy with a win rate, historically at least, of 83%. Of course, this is a simulation. This is optimized. We don't really know how well this works in the future. But still, I think it's good to use trading rules that historically predicted the price development quite well. According to that backtest, we should still be cautious betting on falling prices. As in, the 26-day SMA is still far above the 77-day SMA. We have not yet seen a death cross. We have to wait until we get that death cross to be safe to bet on falling prices again. Yes, the leverage is elevated, but it had been higher in the past. And there is a risk that it could keep rising further. Again, if enough people continue to bet on falling prices and the funding rate stays negative. I like to use trading rules like this. That's why my performance looks the way it does. All of my trades can be seen in the backlog that's in premium. So you just click at the date when I entered and at the date when I exited, and then you can verify for yourself. So for example, here is the opening announcement. That's when I shorted BitTensor, right? We got our death cross. So very similar setup. We get a rally and at some point that rally slows down. Then we get the death cross. And when are we going to close that? That's of course when we get the opposite signal, so a golden cross. I'm planning to do the exact same for Jito. I'm waiting until the momentum slows down. Once we get the death cross, then I enter the short. But again, right now we are very far away from a death cross, so this could continue for a while. It's a 26-day and 77-day simple moving average that's worth plotting. Now, how do you plot this? So let's say you are here on TradingView, you select the daily ticker, and then you enter /. With that, you can then plot a simple moving average. You click on that. You then double click on the line. You change the duration to whatever you want it to be. So let's say 100, just for demonstration purposes. Then you can also change the styling so that you have a better view on what's going on. And then you've got one moving average. And then you simply just do the exact same thing one more time. You change the duration, let's say 50 in this case. And now we've got two moving averages. This here is a golden cross. This here at the top, that's a death cross. And again, when we look at all those permutations for Jito, over here is the very best permutation, which performed phenomenally well in the past. And so I think it makes sense to just continue using that trading rule. That's how I will time the Jito price. By the way, if you don't want to manually copy trade everything that I do, there's also an automatic copy trading vault that's available to the annual subscribers. That's currently at 22% annualized. Last year we got 44. I'm of course working hard that we get our 44% one more time. If it's your first time here, feel free to subscribe. I publish this regularly. A like would be very much appreciated as well. Helps the channel grow. See you next time here on YouTube or see you on Premium. Link to that pops up on the screen. See you next time. Cheers.